Guys, in the last episode, we understood the importance of monopoly and how being in a competitive market destroys your profit. In this episode, we will see that if being a monopoly is so important, then how to be one. So, I am Arnik Jain, and this is the fourth episode of the book Zero to One. This episode will throw some insights on the steps that are required to be taken by you to be a monopoly. So, guys, now that all of you are aware that escaping competition will give you a monopoly, but guys, even a monopoly is a great business only if it can endure in the future. Let's understand it with an example. Guys, you know what? In 2012, Times Group, that was a newspaper company, earned $133 million. Whereas at that time, Twitter was in loss. But when the Twitter's IPO was released in 2013, it was valued at $24 billion, which was 12 times that of Times Group. Now I know that most of you guys might be wondering what happened right now and why was it valued so much? The reason is cash flows. Guys, a great business is defined by its ability to generate cash flows over a period of time. Though Times Group was a big newspaper oligopoly company, but investors expected that Twitter will be able to make monopoly profits over the next decade. Simply stating, the value of business today is the sum total of all the money it will be making in the future. Guys, there is also one more thing to notice from this example of Twitter or any new generation startup. Every tech company often lose money in the starting, and that's because it takes time to build valuable things, and that means delayed revenue and even no profit. But the reason they are so valuable today is because investors expect them to make a lot of value in the future, that is 10 to 15 years in the future. Now, another good company that I am able to recall right now for this example is LinkedIn. LinkedIn is a good company whose value exists in far future. As of early 2014, its market capitalization was $24.5 billion, which was very high for a company with less than $1 billion in revenue and only $21.6 million in net income. Now, you might look at these numbers and conclude that investors have gone insane. But this valuation makes sense when you consider LinkedIn's projected future cash flows. See guys, for a company to be valuable, it must grow and endure. But many entrepreneurs fail to understand this and focus only on short-term growth, due to which they miss the most important question, which is, will this business or this company still be working around a decade from now? Now, this cannot be answered by numbers alone. Instead, you must think about the characteristics that describe your business. You might be wondering, what are these characteristics and basis on which company's destiny is based? And how does they help differentiating an ordinary company from a monopoly? Guys, though every monopoly is unique, but they usually share a set of common characteristics which makes them what they are. These are characteristics of monopoly. The first characteristic of monopoly is proprietary technology. Proprietary technology is the most substantive advantage a company can have because it makes your product difficult or impossible to replicate. A perfect example for this is Google. Google search algorithms, for example, return best results than anybody else, and it would be very hard for someone else to do what Google did to someone else during early 2000s, which means no one can replicate Google. And this is the reason why Google enjoys the monopoly. As a good rule of thumb, proprietary technology must be at least 10 times better than its closest substitute in some or the other dimension to lead a real monopolistic advantage. And guys, the clearest way to make a 10x improvement is to invent something completely new. If you build something valuable where nothing was there before, the increased value is theoretically infinite. And this is the reason why I focus so much on proprietary technology. Now, the second characteristic property is network effects. Guys, network effects make a product more useful as more people use it. Now, this can be understood with an example that I am sure that most of my peers would relate to. That is, if you guys remember, when Clubhouse named app was released, everybody wanted to join it, and within weeks, it was at the top. The reason was FOMO. I myself experienced it, that whenever I got a notification that my friends were talking, I myself wanted to join that room. And this is the same thing that made Facebook popular. But guys, though networking effects are powerful, you will never be able to reap them until and unless your product is valuable to its very first users. That is, when the network is extremely small. The third point is economies of scale, or it could be understood as scalability and viability. Guys, a monopoly business gets stronger as it gets bigger. That is because now the fixed cost gets spread over a large number of quantity of sales, and especially software startups and companies enjoy this advantage because the marginal cost or the additional cost of producing another software is nearly zero. But according to me, this is a bane for those startups which are more focused on services. This is because as they grow, their reach gets limited. Therefore, a startup success is dependent on how well they can scale themselves in the future. The fourth point is branding. See guys, a company has monopoly on its own brand. So creating a strong brand is very important way to become a monopoly. When we are branding, a company that definitely crosses our mind is Apple. They carefully chosen products like iPhone, MacBook, control over customers' experience, omnipresent ad campaigns, price positioning as the maker of premium goods adds to the perception that Apple's offer the best products. But guys, these techniques to polish the surface don't work until and unless they don't work on the strong underlying substance, that is your actual product. And therefore you will see that many companies have failed because they focused more on branding and less on their product. So guys, therefore you have to make a perfect balance between the four characteristics that are proprietary technology, network effects, economies of scale, and branding. And this is what makes a company monopoly. So guys, after you have worked on building brand, scale, network, and technology, the next thing that you need to do is to choose the market segment and then expand deliberately. Every startup should start with a small market. This is because dominating a small market is easier than dominating a big market. See, I am not saying to think small and stay in that small market only. What I am saying is to first monopolize a small market, then gradually expand in other segments. But here small market doesn't mean non-existent market. Like for example, trying to sell something that actually no one wants. That is, it has no demand. According to me, the perfect target market for a startup is a small group of people concentrated together and served by very few or no competitors. See guys, any big market is a bad choice, and a big market that has already been served by competing companies is even worse. This is because when people say that we want to target 1% of $100 billion market, in practice a large market will either lack a good starting point or it will be open to competition. So it's hard to even reach that 1% of that $100 billion market. And it also means cutthroat competition, which means your profits will be zero. So once you dominate and create a niche market, then you should gradually expand into related and slightly broader markets. The perfect example that I am able to recall right now is that of Amazon. You know how Amazon started? It started as a bookstore. Jeff Bezos has a clear vision in mind, that was to create the biggest bookstore on this world. And after he completed his mission of creating the world's biggest bookstore, he went forward and expanded himself. Amazon then had two options, either to expand the number of people who read books or to expand to adjacent markets. And they chose the later one, starting with the most similar markets. They started selling CDs, videos, and softwares. And the Amazon's name itself brilliantly showed how Amazon had the strategy of selling everything to this world. And now it stands for every kind of thing in the world. You know guys, sequencing markets correctly is very underrated. and it takes a lot of discipline to expand gradually. And you will see that the most successful companies makes the core progression, that is to first dominate a specific niche and then scale to adjacent market, which is a part of their founding narrative. Now what I'm going to talk about is the last mover advantage. Yes, you heard it right, the last mover advantage. You have probably heard about the first mover advantage. If you are the first entrant into a market and you capture significant market share, then the competitors won't able to enter that market. But moving first is a tactic, not a goal. What really matters is generating cash flows in the future. So being the first mover does not do any good to you if someone else comes along and unseats you. It's much better to have the last mover advantage. Yeah, I know you might be shocked to hear this, but what is Arnik saying? But guys, it is much better to be the last mover. That is, to make the last great development in a specific market and enjoy years or even decades of monopoly profits. And according to me, the way to do that is to first dominate a small niche and scale up from there towards your ambitious long-term vision. So that was all for this episode. I will meet you in the next episode where we'll move ahead and learn more and more things. Thank you for being a patient listener and a steady learner.